Just want to thank you guys so much for choosing to join me today, for choosing to be a part of this amazing conversation that we are about to have. And it's titled The Number One Protection Your Daughter Needs in Relationships. And peep game, it's more than contraceptives. Now, how many conversations are had like this? I don't think many are had, but they're so necessary and they need to be had. Okay. So I just want you guys to feel relaxed. You'll get to know me, my personality. I'm very, can be rambunctious at times, but you'll see why. I think sex talks are one of the best talks to have, but it's not had enough. And I think it comes a lot from fear, based out of fear, which it shouldn't be. And I'm going to hopefully dispel that notion or that thought when it comes to sex and relationships and teens and all that good stuff. All right. So just to give you a view of the conversation that we're going to have tonight, you already got a little bit of understanding of how the flow is going to go. We're going to be talking about why your daughter is having sex, because truth be told, there are a lot of teenage girls who start having sex and the parents don't know. I was one of those teenage girls. So we definitely understand how that goes. And of course, moms and or dads, if dads are on, you know how that goes as well if you follow down that pathway that most teen girls go. We're going to be talking about why she may choose to have sex in the future, why her getting pregnant is not the worst thing you should be concerned about. Okay. I know that's like, what? And how I can help you all, help you both, parent and teen girl, along the way. Awesome. So I will say this. I know everybody is on mute. I will have times to where I'll ask you to come off mute because I want to hear your voices. This is a very small and intimate community, so it's going to be okay. Thank you again for, like I said, for choosing to get on. So feel free. Don't be shy. Listen, I'm pretty inviting. You know what I'm saying? So I want you to feel comfortable as much as I'm comfortable right now. So a little bit about me. You guys don't know me from Timbuktu. Listen, my name is Brittany Jones, and I tend to think of myself as like a rapper, thinking I got bars and all that good stuff. So let me spit a bar for you to sum up who I am. Okay, Midwest raised me. Jesus saved me. I'm up on game, so the devil can't play me. Listen, that's it. That's me in a nutshell. I was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. Okay, country as can be, I guess. Right now, I currently live in the Chicago land, about 20 minutes outside of the city of Chicago. I got saved at the age of 16. When I tell you that was one of the best decisions I could ever made, how God just swooped your girl up, came into my life. I also have a career path. I'm a medical technologist or clinical laboratory scientist. And long story short, I help doctors and nurses determine what's going on with your body. When you send body parts or body fluids to the laboratory, I'm the one who processes those things and we give results to you. Okay. So, but crazy enough, I don't really like to talk about my career path as much as I like to talk about this, as much as I like to talk about what we're talking about tonight. So this is what I love to do. About, let's say, 9 years ago, God put it up on my heart to start pouring out all the good things or the bad things that I was going through at that time, and how I was just struggling so much when it comes to love, sex, and relationships, early 20s. And I wanted out of it. Like I really wanted change in my life because I was suffering the consequences of my actions. And at the age of 22, I birthed this blog called She Abundantly. You can find it at sheabundantly.com, to where I just started to encourage the average young woman who was like me, in a relationship, didn't really have a lot of knowledge when it comes to love, sex, relationships, but yet God was still working on my heart and really delivering me from some crazy mindsets that I had, a couple of them that we'll get into tonight. But yet that was birth. And so my main motto now and what I love to do is empower teen girls to know their self-worth and the power of sexual integrity. So listen, if you can remember right here and right now, go on over, okay, after this, go on over to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and put in She Abundantly and follow your girl, because I be posting some good stuff, okay? Stuff that like big sisters, aunties, and that you really need at that moment, but you afraid to ask, or you feel like you ain't got nobody to talk to. I believe this stuff, this blog, all of my content has been created just for you. So remember that, at She Abundantly. Okay. I want to see some of y'all names after this. Okay. So I'm also, of course, a teen girl mentor. I really started mentoring teen girls, I say about six years ago. And when I tell you it is my heart's passion, this is really my God-given assignment, to the point to where I am changing my career path, walking off of a job with a lot of money to do what God told me to do. Because I realize in this market, in this area, in this arena, there's not a lot of people like me who have such a heart passion to want to help teen girls make the best decisions when it comes to love, sex, and relationships. Because if you're anything like me, then you didn't have somebody or you didn't really have a lot of structure and guidance when it came to that at the tender age that you are, 15 or 16, 17. And I know a lot of moms can really relate to that. And so I've spent the last, what did I say, 6 years, specifically 4 years, teaching teen girls, like having in-house gatherings, sitting down with them, speaking at the Boys and Girls Club, speaking at my church, and really pouring out to them, not only teen girls, but youth in general. But my passion is teen girls. And the very first teen girl, let me say this, the very first teen girl that really started this passion up for me is this brown sugar queen right here. I don't know. Can y'all see her? Can you raise your hand and give her hearts if you can see her? You know what I'm saying? Do y'all think y'all know who she is? Who's this girl right here? Who, put a heart if you think you know who she is. Oh, I see somebody working in the chat. Let me see. You, it's me. It is me. Yes, it is me. Okay. Yes, it is me. This is me at 14 years old. Okay. Now I'm about to take a shift in the conversation, but the reason why I have such a heart passion in 14 girls is because this teen girl in this picture, she was getting ready to go to her first high school dance. Now, when I look back at this picture, people may see her, all glammed up, got some money in her hand because she's about to go to this dance, but I can see past that smile that she tried to put on her face. And reality is, she was really broken on the inside. Like, she was really hurt on the inside, and she tried to smile through it all. She was in a home with a mom and a dad, but she was really thirsting for a father's validation and a mother's inspiration. And she didn't get it. She didn't have it. And what she didn't know that she was about to go through, or what was about to happen to her, was that her life was about to change for the worse. A year after this picture was taken, right before her sophomore year, she witnessed one of the most traumatic things that I believe a young teen girl could witness. And what that was domestic violence. Now, I know we all have our stories. We all been through trauma and, of sorts or whatever. And, I tell my story not to shame anyone and not to give anyone a bad view of the people involved, but it's my story. And you won't understand why I came to where I am, my decisions now, if you don't know where I come from. And so it was one day her mom and dad was arguing. And then all of a sudden she heard the loud ruckus and ran to where her mom and dad was. And all of a sudden she found, or she saw her father push her mother down like a feather. Like, her mother was not a light woman at all. But she saw her being pushed down like a feather. And I don't know if you can imagine the pain or the fear that just swelled up inside of her, of seeing her mom go through such craziness, see her mom being hurt in that way. A few minutes later, after the trauma and the argument is still continuing, the next thing she sees is her mom running up the steps with like this huge balloon size bump on her face by her temple. It was so big it looked like a cartoon. Her face was so swollen. And she said, "You see what your dad did to me? You see what your dad did to me?" And all of a sudden, the next thing I know, she fell out on the floor. Can you imagine that? I just want you to put yourself in that position of a teen girl experiencing all of that. The house was already not the healthiest place, and then whatever hope she had left in it, it was shattered at that moment. She thought her mom was dead from the experience or from what just happened. And long after, a few minutes after that, her older sister called 911 to come get her mother because we didn't know what happened. We didn't know if she was dead or passed out. Her dad runs up the steps, and while she's frantically crying, she's crying to him saying, this is what you did to my mom. And he tells her, he says, "Oh, shut up. She's all right. She all right. Oh, be quiet." Can you imagine the pain, the fear, the anguish, the almost hatred, all those emotions that stirring up in this young girl's mind and heart at that moment? Crazy, right? So the ambulance comes to get her mother and take her to the hospital. And the next thing she knows is she sees her mom alive, but laying in a hospital bed with a brace around her neck and a black eye, a whole black eye. Now, at that age, 14 years old, probably around 15 when this happened, you can't really process that trauma that you're going through. You don't really know or can't put words to what's happening inside of you. And that's exactly what she was going through. She went back home that very night, and called up a teen guy, a guy that was showing her attention in the hallways, showing her sexual attention in the hallways. Called him up and had him come over that same night that all that happened, because everybody had left the house. The dad fled and with nobody there. She called him over for him to have sex with her, and that was her first sexual encounter ever. I don't know about you, but when I think back about that story, when I think back through my life, through what happened to me, all I can do or all I can think is I'm so sorry you went through that. I feel for you, because she had no clue of what to do. She had no clue of how to handle that trauma. And I believe most of our teen girls, what they go through, or the reason why they make a lot of their decisions, is not because of TikTok or, something surface that we think, or always peer pressure, which it is one of those things, but a lot of it goes deeper. A lot of it is fear-based, or a lot of it is her trying to find a safe place when there isn't one. And so the next best thing, or the thing that she thinks to go to is, well, if her father's not giving her that place or that validation or that love, then maybe a teen guy will. But see, what teen girls don't realize is that that's never the case. That's never the situation. And so it would take years, for me to get to this point. I'm 31 years old now, but it would take time for me to understand the consequences of my actions, and why doing that and why turning to a God was never the best decision to make. Now, God was faithful to your girl. He delivered me from a lot of things. I will continue to use my body to find love and validation, and try to, get attention from guys, using my body to do it. But God was faithful, and he slowly but surely showed me my self-worth and my value. And so how did I get there? Now, of course, I understand, that traumatic thing happened, and it was traumatic. And I know that's why it drove me into the arms of a guy to have sex for the very first time. But a lot of the things that teens go through, or a lot of the things that are being fed into their mind, into their eyes, it's all around them. It's in culture. Now, I was that average teen girl. I was listening to music. I was listening to all the messages on TV and all that stuff. And so I want to read a couple of stats to you to help you, or give you a gauge of what the average teen girl is experiencing on a daily basis. This number says 100,000. There are about 100,000 messages about sex given in the average year. I read this quote, and I cannot remember who said it, but I read this quote, And I'm like, yo, that is, I wholeheartedly believe it. I wholeheartedly believe it. Um, because everything that we listen to, what we see, it's all giving us a message about sex. It's all giving us a message about sex. But here's the thing, how many of those messages are the right message? Out of those 100,000 messages that teen girls hear over a span of 1 year, just 1 year alone, how many are healthy? How many are good? I would say none. I would say close to none. And that's a lot of messages. How about this? 92%, y'all. 92%. 92% of the top songs on the Billboard charts contain sexual content, averaging about 10 phrases a song. That is a lot. So your average song, the songs that get the most radio play, are the most sexually charged songs. And the messages that they're speaking and that they're saying to our teen girls, we already know it ain't the deal. We already know. We see the artists, we see the glitz and glamour and they make it seem glorious, but the consequences of their actions and they don't really talk about the heart effect that you go through after making a decision, after thinking that love is sex and you're always supposed to have sex with whatever guy that you're dating. They don't tell us that truth. They don't expose the truth about those things. How about this? 40% of high school kids who, or how about this? Let me rephrase that. 40%, which is the percent of high school kids who have already had sexual intercourse. Now, it says that over time, statistics show that this has decreased. Like, this is a good number, but I would say that's still a lot. 4 out of 10 of our teens are sexually active right now. Average about the youth between 15 to 19 years old, it's about 21 million youth on any given year. 40%, that's about 8 million teens. That's about 8,400,000 teens who are currently active in having sex. And how many of them are having sex based on the right reasons? Let me tell you, if you knew the truth or you understand the truth about sex, you would know that none of them are having sex based on the right reasons. Most of the reasons that people have sex or youth have sex, outside of God's creation for it, it's never healthy. It's never a good reason to do it. And we'll get to that. And 17, y'all. 17 is the average age that teens become sexually active. Now, I lost my virginity. I gave my virginity away at the age of 15. And so I think this is a pretty good number, give or take, depending on people and teens being honest. But that's pretty early. That is very, very early. And so I totally understand. Why people choose the route that they choose. It seems like all the odds and the stats are stacked up against us. But tonight, I want to share with you the number one protection that your daughter needs in relationships, and how when you change your mind or when you change your approach to your teen when it comes to sex, you'll realize that it's more than contraceptives. It's more than birth control, Plan B pill, shots and hormone patches. It's really much more than that. What I love to do, like I said, is talk to teen girls. And I have a mentor by the name of Jackie Bruton. If you ever remember this name, go to JackieBruton.com. That is JackieBruton.com. She mentors teens, middle school, high school, college. She's been doing this, I say, almost 20 years. And over the course of really teaching and mentoring teen girls, teens, they flood her with letters, things that they don't even tell their parents, things that they don't tell anyone. They trust Miss Jackie enough to tell her. And some of these letters are heartfelt. Some of these letters are just, my goodness. But I want to give you a glimpse of your teen daughter's brain. I want to give you a glimpse of what she goes through and maybe some things that she's thinking, but doesn't want to share with you. So brace yourself. Brace yourself, because these letters are real and they're from real young women. But I think you will appreciate where we're going here. It says, "Dear Miss Jackie, when you came to my school and spoke to my class about decisions and sex, I had to fight back tears because I have already made bad decisions that will follow me for the rest of my life. When you read us the letters of some of the other students, it inspired me to share my story, and that hopefully you will tell others. I am 16 years old. I started having sex when I was 13 because of a lack of support. Keyword, lack of support from my father. By the age of 15, I was pregnant by a boy I thought loved me. A week later, I went to a doctor's appointment my mom had set up that I didn't know about. I became nervous because she didn't know I was pregnant. When I got there, I found out that I had an incurable STD and that I couldn't have my baby because if I did, my heart would give out while I gave birth because of a previous medical condition. Wow. And even if I overcame that, which there was only a 40% chance that I would, I was going to die from AIDS. My goodness. I didn't know what to do. I reached out to the boy that I thought loved me, but I didn't know that he also had HIV and had given it to me. When I told him about the baby, he denied it and left. I had no help, no support, and HIV. Wow. My mom pressured me into having an abortion. My goodness. That was 6 months ago. I am now 16. Because of one heat of the moment decision, I caught a virus that will follow me until I die, and I also killed my baby. If only I had heard you earlier, maybe I wouldn't be here. Living with this disease is life changing. Sometimes I cry because it's so hard. I hope my story changes lives. One decision can cost you everything. I learned that and I'm living with it. My goodness. The let's pause for a second. This is more than your average TV show. Okay? Atlanta Housewives, like this poor girl at just a tender age of 16 has gone through more things than a grown woman in a lifetime. But when I read this letter, I see things that stand out to me. And I want to ask you guys, this is your time to get off of mute, if you will. Don't be shy. But I want to ask you, can anyone point out some things that are wrong with this letter? Or some things that stand out that makes you say, oh my goodness. Did anyone want to share? What are some things that stood out in this letter?
The fact that she started having sex at 13.
Yes, my goodness. My goodness. Absolutely. Why do you think she started having sex at 13? That's such a young age. You're barely having your menstrual period at that time. Can you think of any reason why? And it's okay.
Maybe curiosity.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yep. That's a possible reason. Absolutely. I hear that from teen girls. Yes, I do. Yes. Is anybody else? Can anybody else point something out in this letter? How about this? She thought the boy loved her. Now, I wonder why. I wonder what happened in that relationship or what made her think that he loved her at such a tender age of 13. I know, let me just be honest. I'm just now learning what love is over in my adult years, okay? Let alone at 13. I really didn't know what love was. We think we do. A lot of times we think sex is love, but actually it's not. Sex is not equal love at all.
The lack of support of her father.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my goodness. A lack of support. And I know a lot of us can truly relate to that. I know I can. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I chose to have sex at 15. And then she said, one decision can cost you everything. That's what she wanted the readers to know about this. Okay. So we're about to talk about a few reasons why teen girls have sex. Now, feel free, if you're on your phones, I want you to screenshot this. Go ahead and put yourself back on mute. This next slide or the next couple of reasons. Because I'm going to give you insight on the average mind of a teen girl and insight on your daughter's mind as well. Why do teen girls have sex? Here's one: age. I heard this one girl she told me that she thought that she was supposed to have sex when you turn 16. Now that goes, see, like when you think about that, where did she get that from? Like who told her that? And you know what? I don't even know if she told me where she got it from, but I think that was just what she believed. Now that goes back to those 100,000 messages that are spoke about sex in the average year. She probably got it from one of those. But This is what our teen girls are thinking. They think it's a rite of passage, or I become a woman when I have sex. And that's truly not womanhood. We'll learn that sex is so much more than the physical. It's so much more than you becoming of age or even having a menstrual period. But that's one of the reasons. How about this? A lot of girls have sex for a guy to like them. Now, I know I had sex when it was a traumatizing event, but I continue to have sex with guys because I wanted them to love me. I was literally looking to a guy who had no obligation to me, who didn't really know me, to love me deeply. Something that I was lacking from my father. I was looking to him to fulfill. And let me go ahead and say this right now. A boy, a boyfriend, they can never fulfill a father's love. They can never fulfill or fill that void that a father leaves. They can't. And so when we turn to them to try to fill that void, it always goes wrong, because you'll find that that void is too much for them to fill, and they'll feel pressure from you. They'll feel like, oh, it's too much. You're putting too much on me. And so what happens is, after the sex and the girls become real clingy to the guys, and that's for great reason, the boys leave because it's like too much. They cannot be a father to you. But yeah, they want to be liked by a guy. How about this? To prove they're not a good girl. Oh, that blows my mind. But I guess when everybody is doing certain things, you tend to want to follow the crowd. And so if people are making fun of you, talking about, oh, you still got your virginity and you a goody two shoes, it's like, okay, I'm the one who has self-control here. And you don't. Let me give that to you right now. So if somebody says that to you, like, why would you make fun of me for having or not giving my body away? Like, that's, keeping your body is not a bad thing. It really is a beautiful thing. It shows more of a self-control and more uh, of you valuing your body than you think. A lot of girls think that virginity is a burden. Girls think I gotta give it up because I don't want to be a virgin. Listen, it kind of goes into number 3, but my goodness, virginity is a beautiful thing. It's something that is to be cherished. It's something that is to be savored and enjoyed with the person that is going to commit himself to your life, to you for the rest of his life. And it's not a burden. It's actually a gift. You know, if I could go back to my 15-year-old self, I would encourage her to know that her virginity was not a burden. And the greatest gift that she can give to her spouse one day is a gift that nobody's ever had before. Let that sit in. So virginity is not a burden. It's actually a gift. Girls have sex, clearly. I think this is the biggest reason, because of daddy issues. Because of daddy issues. When you don't have a man, a healthy example or role model, showing you how to be treated as a woman, validating you as a young woman, telling you that you're beautiful and that it's okay, you have enough, you know, your body's enough, you will settle for any guy who shows you any attention, who says that you're cute and you pretty, and they can get to you just like that. Oh, a lot of our issues come from our daddy wounds. Low self-esteem, not thinking that you're beautiful enough, not seeing your value, not not realizing how powerful you are in this world, and how you're more than your body, you're more than a physical act, and you're more than a relationship. Feeling left out, FOMO, that's still a thing. The fear of missing out. You don't want to be left out because you think everybody else is doing it, so you want to do it. But let me be truthful and honest with you right now. Everybody ain't doing it. Okay. A lot of the people who are having sex, or teens who are having sex, it's because they feel the peer pressure from their peers to have sex. So really, people are making a decision based off of what other people think, and not based on what they really want out of life. And that's never a good help, never a way to make a decision based off of what other people think. What about you? What do you want for your life? Okay. Rejection. Oh my goodness, that was me. I felt so rejected by my father, and I wanted to feel loved. So I thought sex was the only way for me to feel loved and validated. Clearly, I was wrong, because what I didn't know is, in order to keep getting that attention and affection, I would have to keep taking my clothes off to do it. And so I began to feel used. I began to feel like, well, the only way I can get a man's attention is if I let him have sex with me. And that's not how a woman is created. A woman's body is not for a guy's sexual pleasure, but it's really to glorify God. Let's just keep it 100. It's really to show off his beauty, his greatness. God has put so much inside of you. And it's more than relationships, it's more than sex. And what God wants to do in your life is show you his love and his validation and all the good things that he has for you. So even if you feel rejected, just know that God always accepts you and that you have people around you who loves you and validates you, whether it be mom or your siblings or, healthy friendships. Let me say that. You would never fulfill that void of rejection through sex. You won't. And to self-medicate, so many teen girls think that, well, in order to heal myself, let me try to feel good, but they don't realize that when you have illegal sex, and I say illegal sex meaning having sex outside of the way God created it, it's actually not helping you, but it's harming you because there's more consequences. There's more emotional turmoil that you go through when you do that. And so basically, you're putting yourself through a cycle. And that's what I did. I was trying to self-medicate my pain that I felt that day by having sex. And I still felt that pain after I got up out the bed because it didn't heal my heart. It didn't heal the brokenness that was caused by my dad. And this is a big one. Girls just don't know how to say no. I recently did a webinar. You can find it on my website, sheabundantly.com. If you go to inspiration, and you'll find it under conversations, girl combos, of how to say no with confidence. So many girls have become people pleasers that they don't know how to say no. They feel like if I say no, then I'm going to be rejected, that guys are not going to like me. And that goes to her not knowing that her worth is not in a guy. That goes back to her being validated and feeling loved by her home, by her family. But yes, not knowing how to say no. And last, just lies, not knowing the truth, okay? Not understanding the truth. So if you want to take a screenshot of this so you can hold on to that, I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. And drink my little water in my nephew's cup. All right, I'm going to move on. Okay, y'all. We got another letter. As we move on to the reason or the number one protection your daughter needs in relationships, I think this letter is going to bring it all home for you. Let me tell you, the mind of a teen and what she goes through, I so relate. And I hope you can relate to this too, because it's so impactful and it's life-changing. And we're going to see the real reasons or the real issue here when it comes to teen sex. Okay, I'm going to start reading it. This is from another teen girl to my mentor, Jackie Bruton. It says, "Thank you so much for taking the time to do what you've done for me. You've helped me acknowledge my naivete and how my actions these past 2 years of high school could have hurt me. My freshman year, I went into high school having always heard from my elders not to trust any snot-nosed boys. I was constantly surrounded by everyone telling me that high school boys were not to be trusted. Now, this wouldn't have been, let me say that again, this wouldn't have even been the case if we raised our boys the way we raise our girls. Now, listen, that's truth, but I digress. Because I had been surrounded by this, I always wanted to give boys the benefit of the doubt just to be on the contrary. So my freshman year, I had a crush on this senior friend of mine. Over the course of 8 months, I got to know him, so I thought a relationship would be okay. It didn't end well. Check this out. I ended up giving him head, that is oral sex, in the back of his car. Like the idiot freshman I was. And he only ended up cheating on me with my best friend. I risked my health for someone who did not value it. After that, I was really hesitant to even be in a relationship for fear of that happening again. Can anybody relate? Around 4 months, just 4 months after that, I got a new boyfriend. He seemed a lot more genuine than the previous one, and my family actually liked this one. So for our 3-month anniversary, I offered to give him head, oral sex again. I did this because at that point, I knew how to do it as opposed to sexual intercourse, which I had no experience in. And I didn't want him to leave me like the last one. Now, he refused at first, but after a week or so, he eventually gave in. I had unknowingly pressured him into it, but he's not completely innocent after all. Mm-mm. For our 5-month anniversary, instead of sex, he requested anal. Yo, this is what our teens are going through. And I initially refused. I did some research about it, and most people said it hurt. Hmm. But when I went over to his house for a few days later, we were fooling around, and he was like, "Well, we already mostly naked, so we should just go for it." And because it would have been awkward to say no, I let him do it. And it hurt. My goodness, more than I care to admit. Before you came to speak to us, nobody told me that even the small sexual acts could still tie you to someone emotionally. So when he cheated on me after 9 months of being together, I was broken. I figured we wouldn't last past high school because I didn't think it would end the way we did. And if I could take back everything I did in those 2 years with those two guys or two boys, I would without hesitation. Yo, this is we're almost over. There were so many times that I almost gave in. I just wanted to be loved physically because words weren't enough for me. My self-esteem was nearly non-existent because I didn't like the way I looked. I figured physical displays of affection were the only validation I'd have, if that makes sense. My mind is jumbled right now because this is the first time I've written it all down. I feel awful for pressuring my ex-boyfriend, but I feel a little bit better for acknowledging it. Y'all, that is a lot. Yo, so go ahead and take yourselves off mute. Can someone point out to me some of the things that are a little like really off about this letter?
I got one.
What's up? Go ahead.
She kept asking for him. She kept asking him.
She kept asking him to have sex.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Now, why do you think she did that?
Cause she wasn't thinking right.
Oh,
She was thinking
okay. I thought I heard something else because she wasn't thinking right. Okay. Yes. She didn't have a clear mind. She wasn't thinking through her decisions, which is very common for teenagers. If you don't know, the brain of a teenager is not fully developed when it comes to decisions and consequences. And so a lot of times teenagers will make consequences and can't connect, I'm sorry, make decisions and can't connect the consequences. So you end up suffering more than you should. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like touching the hot fire. Like, oh, I didn't realize I would get burned. That's your average teen brain. So maybe you experienced that or probably know that a little bit more. Can anybody else point out what's crazy about this letter? This heartfelt letter? Thank you for sharing.
She was looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah. Looking for love and all the wrong place.
Wrong places.
Listen, looking for love. She was.
Mm-hmm.
And I would listen. I know exactly how she feel. Yep. Yep.
I don't. What is head and anal? What is that?
Say that again.
What is head and anal?
Oh, so it's forms of sex.
Oh, okay.
I talk to teen girls about sex for this reason. Um, if you think that this kind of conversation is like woo, trust and believe, pornography has taught her so much more. TikTok has taught her so much more. I was introduced to pornography at the age of grade school. And so a lot of them are seeing these things, but they just don't know how to put words to actions. And so I think this kind of talk is healthy because they need to know what this is so that they can be aware of how to make better decisions for themselves. So thank you for asking those questions. And it's definitely okay. All right. So I'm just going to briefly point out the things that are wrong here. We're going to keep moving on as we are winding down. So many things are wrong with this letter. And one of them was she needed healthy sex talk. One of the things she said in her letter was, no one told me. Like, most of the adults around her were just telling her that boys were bad, but no one sat her down and educated her on what those actions were or what was considered bad, if you get what I'm saying here. And that is something that most teen girls, what I experience, most teen girls are at. No one told them, or no one is telling them. So they end up doing things out of ignorance. She was saying how, and we'll get to this, but she was saying how no one told her that small sexual acts would have such grave consequences. When she had sex with him, this is a consequence of sex. You attach that person emotionally. And that's really the pain that a lot of people, not just teen girls, but a lot of people feel. I don't know if you ever heard this, but there's no condom for your heart. There's no condom for your heart. Once sex is done, once sex is had, those heartfelt connections are made, because that's how sex is designed. Sex is designed to bring two people together, to make them one. And that's why God created sex for a beautiful marriage, a relationship that is committed. And the only relationship that is marriage. So another thing that points out in that letter is the adults around her had a fear-based approach. Now, I've had this approach before. I know many parents do, but let me tell you this. Fear doesn't push anybody away from an action. Fear only gives birth to fear. Telling someone not to do something, don't, and showing them bad pictures of STD, because listen, we've all done, and I know people who continue to do this. You're not scaring them out of anything, because when it comes down to the moment, the heat of the moment, when they're emotional, or when hormones are raging and all of that stuff, the last thing that teens are thinking about is those pictures that you've shown them, or the bad things that could happen. And I'm gonna show you why here in a minute, of why she's not concerned about that. Another thing is she equated relationships to sex. I just want you to know right now that sex is not equal, or relationships doesn't equal sex, and love doesn't equal sex. Just because you are in a relationship with someone does not mean you have sex with them at all. And that's something that culture has told us, and made us to believe. And that is such a lie. Such a lie. Sex is very powerful, and it's deep in, and it's really not going to give you the intimacy or the heartfelt connection that you're looking for when you're having sex in these boyfriend girlfriend relationships. It's not. And her feeling like an idiot and being used the first time, it didn't stop her from doing it again. It did not. It did not. Catch that. She felt used. She felt like an idiot, but she still had sex. 4 months later, she got a new dude, or was it 3 or 5 months later? I don't know. She got another dude and did the very same thing. We're going to get to why. Here's the thing, another thing. She didn't have sex for herself, but to please a guy. And let me tell you, the main reason, because I wanted love, validation, and attention from a guy, I had sex with guys to please him, because I thought, well, if that's what he wanted, then that's what I had to do in order to get what I wanted, in order to feel loved. So I can tell you right now, most girls, oh my goodness, if not all girls, they don't have sex for themselves. They don't have sex because they want to. They're doing it to please a guy. But baby girl, let me tell you this. You are not created or made or put on this earth to please a guy sexually. You're just not. Like I said, you were created for something so much greater, something so much more valuable than doing something with your body. Okay? A guy needs to learn how to I don't want to say please himself, but you know what I'm saying? Like, make himself happy outside of your body. That's not your responsibility. She had sex with him in fear that he may leave her. This baby girl, up until the age that she was at, got with this dude, wasn't with him for I don't know how long, maybe less than 9 months, or whichever relationship that was. She didn't want this boy to leave her. That speaks to something much deeper than what she or that relationship. It seems like she was looking for a father. She was looking for that manly love, and she thought that she could get it in that boy. And so she didn't want to lose that. But that's really traumatic. That's really really deep there, and I want you to hold on to that. She initiated the sex and pressured him. Hold on to that too, because it's a reason why she's doing this. And she said it was more awkward for her to say no than anal sex. But I would say doing that act is actually more awkward than saying the words no. Our teen girls don't know how to say no. And she considered non-vaginal sex acts to be small. I want to dispel that lie. Any type of sexual act, it affects your mind, it affects your body, your emotions, all of you. So it's not just vaginal penetration. Okay, it's any kind of act, and that goes to teen girls being educated on what sex actually is. And her emotional void was so empty that she settled for shallow physical attention. I want to say this: when you are starving, or when teen girls are starving, junk food would seem like a full course meal, because she didn't feel loved, she didn't feel validated. She probably had daddy issues. I guarantee you she probably did. Or, it wasn't a lot of healthy male energy around her. She was starving for it. So she got it, or tried to get it however she could, even if it was her being used for her body. Y'all. And so I want to share with you why teen girls have sex. And I believe this is why these teen girls had sex. And I know this is why I had sex. Let me show you. Because she's not concerned about the consequences. She's not concerned about the consequences at all. She's not concerned about STDs. She's not concerned about being pregnant and getting pregnant and all those other things. But her desire to be loved and wanted outweighs the consequences. That's the reason why most teen girls have sex. It's because of the voids that's inside of them. It's because she's looking for something much deeper. And this is why you have girls make the same decisions over and over and over again. And you're thinking like, that makes no sense. But she's looking for something much deeper. And she's thinking that sex is the only way to fulfill it. She thinks that to fulfill her deep emotional void, sex is the only way. And this is what I want to sit at and kind of drive home here in the next few minutes as we wind down here. There's so many more side effects than, or let me say it like that. There's so many more side effects of birth control than what we think. We just think putting our daughters on birth control and then giving them, well, I'm just going to protect her, make sure she doesn't get pregnant or STDs. I'm protecting her. Now, granted, I'm not telling anyone how to make decisions, but I want to show you the other side of birth control, or the other side of these contraceptives that I don't think we think about. Like, like Ray Charles, listen, some things we just don't see. And as I said before, her decision for having sex was much deeper than the physical. And this is what we don't see. All these devices of birth control, they just mask the true reason. They mask the real reason why she's having sex. Okay. And so when we just put our daughters on these devices of birth control, we're not really tending to the true void she's having on the inside, or the real emotional pain that she's experiencing. And when that happens, it gives her a false sense of safety and security. It does. One of the reasons why, when I was struggling with sex, as of right now, I have been abstinent for the last 7 years because of my relationship and walk with God. God had to really show me my worth. And I sat down with him, and he told me that, I'm so much more than my body. And one of the things he had me do was not get on birth control. I had so many people pushing me to use these different birth controls. And I was like, but I don't feel led to, even though I was still struggling. And yes, I could have got pregnant and all that stuff, but God was just telling me, don't do it, don't do it. And I believe this is one of the reasons why, because it would have gave me a false sense of safety and security. Because here's the truth. I may not have gotten pregnant, but the effects of sex, when people have sex, period, it affects the heart much deeper than the physical. Sex is spiritual, emotional, and physical. The last thing that it is physical. And so the effects of the heart last so much longer than some of the physical consequences. I kid you not. I kid you not. And I know this may seem like, oh my goodness, this is this is left field. This is, some of this stuff may even be offensive because it's like, what? Nah, I'm gonna stick to what I know. But I just wanted to give you a different perspective of the effects when we choose to just cover up the surface and try to save our kids or save our daughters from physical consequences. Yeah, this is what really happens. It gives her a false sense of safety and security. So she'll start to have sex even more. I've heard this, and I know if I would have got on birth control or did that, I would have continued to have sex and I never would have developed a solid relationship with God. Because let me say this. A relationship with God, and I'm getting ahead of myself for a reason, but a relationship with God is the most important thing that a teen girl could ever have. And how sex is designed is because God created sex, if you guys didn't know, he did. And how it's designed is when you have sex, how God created it, it brings you closer to God. Sex is always spiritual first. But when you have sex outside of his will, outside of that, his design for it, it actually separates you from God's spirit. I know I can't even go into it right now, but it disrupts her relationship with God. And like I said, it gives her a false sense of safety and security when actually her heart and her relationship with God is still in danger. So yeah, she may not get pregnant, but as she continues to have sex because she thinks she's not going to get pregnant, you know, it's giving her a false sense of security and safety. And a lot of people think that birth control solves all the issues, but what we don't realize is one solution to a risk opens up another risk. And because girls, when they get on birth control, they think they're invincible or they think that they're good. So they really won't require the guy to protect himself either. And so what you see is a lot of girls will give their body even more to their boyfriend, to a guy, and not even require anything else. And so a lot of sex STDs come about. There's about 26 million cases of STDs every year. And half of that comes from people between age 15 and 26. Our teenagers, our young adults. Another side effect of birth control is what we do is we teach her that her responsibility is, let me say it again. We teach her that it's her responsibility to cater to the guy, relinquishing him of any responsibility or fault. So what's happening is we put our teen girls or our teen girls' bodies more at risk and putting the pressure on her to make sure that she doesn't get pregnant or, you know, something doesn't happen while the boy goes away scot-free. That blew my mind. That blew my mind when I realized this, and my mentor shared this with me actually. And so while we put her body at risk, because we do understand that birth control has a lot of hormones in it, and it disrupts your normal flow of things, your hormones, and it's a lot of side effects as well. They're learning that birth control is linked to cancer and all of these things. And it's like when we teach her that, when we put that on her mind, we're teaching her how to go through life always trying to save a man or always trying to cater to a man when that's not her responsibility. That's not her purpose. That's not what she's created to do. It makes it harder. Here's another side effect of birth control. It makes it harder for her to say no. It gives her a false obligation because this is what happens. Boys will pressure, and I know this for a fact because I talk to teen boys too. When they find out that a girl's on birth control, they pressure her into having sex with them. And because girls don't know how to say no, she gives in. Because they say, well, you ain't gonna get pregnant, so just do it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. You ain't gonna get pregnant, so what's the big deal? And so she gives in. So it makes it harder for her to stand up and make decisions for her own. And it destroys self-control. This is a huge one. Because what birth control does is it erases her, or it weakens her muscle to develop self-control or exhibit self-control. So even if she wanted to say no, she don't know how to because she hasn't practiced saying no. So it's kind of like it kind of works against the average teen girl, and actually not just teen girls, but a lot of people. And one of the things that I see as a side effect of birth control is that it's a cop out for real teaching. I think a lot of people go that route because they don't know what else to tell teen girls. And so they just say, well, I'm just going to protect you some way I know how. And that's the only way I know. Not realizing that it's not pregnancy that we should be concerned about. It's really the act of sex. Because the more she has sex, the more her self-esteem will be affected, the more she'll develop experience broken hearts, the more she won't have a relationship with God. um so many things, so many things that we don't see. We're just thinking about, well, pregnancy, as long as you don't become a teen parent, and it could possibly destroy the trust in a relationship. There was one teen girl. She shared with her mom that she didn't want to have sex, but when her mom found out that she was in a relationship, her mom freaked out, and because of fear, she didn't want her to become a teen mom like she did. She said, "I'm gonna put you on birth control just in case." And her daughter was like, "Don't do that, because if you do, it's going to make me feel like I have a false sense of security." And she said, "You don't trust me? You don't trust me to stick to my guns, and if I say no, then I can say no. I have the ability to do that." And so it kind of disrupted how she viewed her mom, and she didn't feel like she could be trusted by her parents. So these are some of the side effects of birth control that I don't think we understand. And I want to share this. What's worse than getting pregnant? And I already shared it before, but I want to hit home with this. Not having a relationship with God. I know this is something that we don't hear often, but it is so true. Not having a relationship with God is actually worse than getting pregnant. Because here's the thing. Relationship with God opens up a teen girl to the beauty of her life, what she's created to do, her connection. When you don't have a relationship with God, you're emotionally distraught. You go through a lot of depression. You don't know your purpose, your value. You can't hear God clearly. And like I said before, illegal sex disrupts that relationship because of how it's designed. It does. And what I've noticed, that's why God told me, do not get on birth control. Do not use that as a crutch. I need you to get into my word. I need you to get some understanding about sex so that you can make a decision for yourself, so that you can choose me, talking about him, and so that you can have a relationship with me, and not basically not do what everybody else is doing. Because the average person, the reason why they're having sex is because they're distant from God. They don't know their value. They don't know how sex is or why it's created and what it's used for. And so this is one of my model scriptures. It says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they are the ones who will see God." Pure in heart. Sex is direct access to your heart. And when you're using it in the wrong way, it's like contaminating your heart, and it distances you from God. And, it's another scripture, Matthew 7:23, and it says, "And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness." That scripture is referring to people who said they knew God. They prophesied in his name, but when they stood before him, God was like, "I don't know you. I don't know you." And when we're having illegal sex, when we're using sex in the wrong way, it disrupts our knowledge of God and ultimately his knowledge of us, or his intimacy with us. And that's one thing that I strive to do, is teach girls how to have a relationship with God. And one of that, or part of that, is teaching them about sex. Because trust, and let me say this, moms, let me say this, parents, and whoever else may be watching after this call is over. Some of us, it took us getting pregnant to knock some sense into our heads. We try to pick and choose our children's consequences, not realizing that it's the consequences that save our children. It's the consequences that help them to make better decisions. Because how many got pregnant, right? Had a really bad situation happen, but it knocked some sense into you. And you said, "Oh, I ain't doing this no more." It knocked you, or it put you in a right relationship with God. I know it has for me. And I'm grateful to God of every consequence that I experienced. So instead of trying to save our daughters from the consequences, some of them need to experience it. I know that's hard. That's so hard for a parent to hear. But let me tell you, trying to give them a crutch or not allow them to feel that consequence, they're going to float through life thinking that they could be free, that they could just put a condom on it, they do have birth control, but in reality, the underlying issue is still there. They're still broken on the inside. They still don't have a relationship with God. They still don't know their purpose. And I don't ever want people to stand before God and he say, depart from me because I never knew you. I never knew you. And so the number one protection your daughter needs, we wrapping it up. I promise y'all, we wrapping it up in relationships is knowledge. Yo, it's knowledge, boo. It's knowledge. She needs to know what sex is, how it's created, why it's created, what happens when you have sex. Because it's knowledge that has kept me out of the bed of a man for the last 7 years. It has been knowledge, and maybe more than 7 years. God has been teaching your girl. And this is what I do. What I've specifically been doing for the last 4 years is teaching teen girls all about sex so they can make better, healthy decisions that's outside of birth control, that's outside of, just the surface things, because the surface thing ain't helping. The underlying issue is still there. She still has that deep void that truly only God can fill. This is just a couple of scriptures. I won't read them all, but I'll show you this. This is the importance of knowledge. It says, discretion will protect you and understanding will guard you. Proverbs 2:11. It is knowledge, the ability to make good and healthy decisions. That's going to be her protection. Understanding is going to guard her. It's not really birth control. It's not really those surface things, those devices, but it's her mind, it's her understanding. For the last 4 years, I have my own program, and it's called the Purity Promise, to where I teach teen girls. I have a 6-week program that I'm actually starting this Saturday, August 21st. If you go to sheabundantly.com/the Purity Promise, you'll be able to sign your daughter up. But what I do is every week I talk to them and I spit that real truth about love, sex, and relationships. I teach them the true intention of sex, how God created it, what happens when you have sex physically, emotionally, and spiritually, the scientific, the hormones that's happening in your body, what happens physically when you have sex. Oh my goodness, how to protect her sex, meaning how to set boundaries. I talk a lot about identity. I talk a lot about her values. So many things that she needs that, the schools don't teach about. The average person doesn't teach about, but it hits the void. It hits the real reason why she's having sex. Because when you know better, that's the thing. When you know better, you do better. When you really know the truth about sex, let me tell you this, you'll never abuse it another day in your life. Listen, I always say the best sex I ever had is sex with my spouse. It's sex how God created it, because I know the truth about it. Oh my goodness. It's like knowing the difference between, having a cup of water and a cup of water with poison. If you knew that it was poison inside of it, you wouldn't drink it. You just wouldn't drink it. And so that's what I give to teen girls. And I just want to give you a couple of words from teen girls. And it says, I used to think that you were supposed to have sex at age 16. After coming to the Purity Promise, I now know that's not true. That is amazing. This program changed her mind in a matter of 6 weeks, just like that. Another teen girl says, the Purity Promise changed my whole perspective on sex in a positive way. I was always told to stay away because of the consequences, but now I want to abstain from sex so I can have that special moment with my partner one day. And that's what I'm talking about. That is what I am talking about. And that's what I would love to do with your teen girls. If you feel led to, if you feel like you need somebody to partner with you along this sexual journey, along with teaching her and training her, I really encourage you to go to sheabundantly.com and sign up. It's a program that is very interactive. She'll get a workbook so that she'll have content to work with every week. And what I do is I also talk to the parents on the back end through emails. So I share with you what I've taught the teen girls so that you can continue the sex talks at home. Because here's the thing, sex talk should be one of the best talks. I'm so tired of us or teens or youth feeling like they have to go to friends or pornography to talk about sex when the world and culture, they didn't even create sex. God created sex to be good. And so it's like, when you know how God created it, you're not going to want to abuse it. Like sex, it should never be like, don't have sex because it's bad. But I want to save sex because it's so good, because it's so precious. I like this teen girl said, I want to savor that moment with my partner one day. And I want to give girls the freedom to choose, make healthy decisions by knowledge, with having knowledge about sex. I am so excited that you decided to engage with me and have this conversation with me as I discussed the number one protection that your daughter needs in relationships? I hope you got the answer, and that answer is knowledge. That answer is understanding, and that is exactly what I am serving up. Starting August 21st, 2021, this Saturday, I'm starting my 6-week program teaching and training and encouraging and empowering teen girls when it comes to their self-worth and the power of sexual integrity. Listen, the greatest decision that she will make, or the best decisions that she will make when it comes to sex, is decisions based off of knowledge. And let me just say, birth control and all these man-made devices, they just don't cut it. So I so hope to see your teen girl this Saturday, and let's get this conversation going. I know she's going to love every bit of it. Go over to sheabundantly.com/thepuritypromise. That is sheabundantly.com/thepuritypromise and sign her up right now.